Welcome to the Transformative Principal. I am so excited to share this interview from ISTE 2026 with you. Really fascinating things happening there. Lots of great people. And over the course of the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear some of these great interviews. Hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening to Transformative Principal. All right, Mike Anderson at ISTE talking about his book, Hugging Porcupines. That's my little intro. All right, Mike, welcome. So good to have you back. I think this is our fourth time recording, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a few. It's good to see you, Jethro.
You too. So tell us about your latest book, Hugging Porcupines.
Hugging Porcupines.
Hugging Porcupines. Thank you.
Practical strategies for supporting kids who struggle with behavior in school.
Excellent.
Yeah. So the book is all about how do we support kids who have a hard time in the classroom. They might be academically disengaged, they get bored or overwhelmed, and they shut down or flare up. Mm-hmm. It could be that they're neurodivergent and their brains aren't wired the way schools are teaching them. It could be that these are kids with a history of trauma who are experiencing instability at home. So it's kids who often struggle with behavior, but for like totally legit reasons.
Yeah.
And we've got more and more of these kids coming into classrooms. We're seeing an increased number of misbehaviors in school. We're seeing an increase in the intensity of the misbehaviors often, and teachers are really struggling.
Yeah.
And so this book attempts to give some really practical strategies that teachers can use.
Yeah. One of the things that I perceive, and I'd be curious your thoughts on this, is that when we shut down everything for COVID, we basically told kids all the things we told you about school that matter don't matter anymore because we can just cancel it. And I have seen since then a real disengagement from school, from kids that I would think would be more engaged. And is that something that you've noticed too? How much does that play into it, and how much does just other stuff, phones and all that? Jonathan Haidt would say it's all the phones, right? But
yeah, I think it's a combination of things. No doubt COVID had an impact. I mean, it was a worldwide pandemic. We were all impacted and affected by that. But it's not like kids were skipping through hallways before COVID saying, yay, I love school, and teachers were like, my job is so easy. Like if you could go back to 2019, you'd still see this was building.
Yes, for sure.
So I think COVID was one thing. I think another thing that's going on is that the world is a little bit dysregulated right now. Mm-hmm. You know, when all the grown-ups are dysregulated, it would be weird if the kids weren't dysregulated.
Yeah, that's very true.
And then absolutely, phones and social media, we know that's having an impact on kids' emotional development, social skill development, on their mental health. And so I think I don't know if it's a perfect storm or not, because that makes it sound like it couldn't get worse. And
I was just going to say,
I'm kind of worried that it could. Yes. But, I think it's all of those things going in together is what we're seeing in schools.
Yeah. So do you feel that this is something that is I don't know the best way to say this. Is this something that schools can actually solve? Or okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So how do schools solve it? What are your suggestions?
So the way the book is laid out, so I'm going to answer this in two parts. Yeah. The way the book is laid out, there's a beginning section of the book which is all about understanding our porcupines. Mm-hmm. Why do some kids break so many rules when it would just be so much easier for them and everybody else if they just did what they were supposed to do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why do they do that? Why do some kids disengage from learning even though we know and they know that the learning is what they need? But they spend more time and energy avoiding work or getting out of work than they would spend actually doing the work. Like, why do they do that? That seems weird. Mm-hmm. And then why do they push us away? Very often these are kids who need strong connections and social relationships. And then when we extend a hand and we try and reach out and connect with them, they often push us away. It's like they're dying of thirst in the desert. We're offering them water and they're pushing it away.
Yep.
So that's the first part of the book, is why do some kids struggle so much? The rest of the book, which is really more like 75% of the book, is about through the school year. So the organization of the book is, there's a chapter about the 2 weeks before the school year even starts.
Good.
What do you do in late summer to get ready for porcupines who are coming? Like, make a list of your kids and give yourself a tracking sheet where you're going to start collecting all the little things you learn about them as the year unfolds. Like, they're a football fan, they like baseball, they are into horses, whatever.
Yeah.
Then there's a chapter called The First Weeks of School. And then there's a chapter called, it's October, the honeymoon's over.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
November and December is handling the holidays. January's re-month, like we got to get kids back into school. There's handling the winter doldrums in February and March. So it's basically a walk through the school year.
Yeah.
And there are really practical strategies that teachers can do. And an image that I use that sort of runs as a theme through the whole book is to think of a great learning environment in terms of a three-legged stool.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about the image of a three-legged stool is what happens if any one leg of a three-legged stool
drop.
Yeah. So the three legs are academic engagement. Like the work has to be worth doing from kids' perspectives.
Yeah.
I think it would be weird if kids were motivated to do unmotivating work.
Yes. Yep.
I'm not motivated to do unmotivating
Nobody is.
Don't you avoid it at all costs?
Yes.
Do the least amount possible to get through it?
Right. Anytime I can.
So that's one leg. Another leg is respectful, consistent discipline that creates safety in the classroom. And then the third leg is positive relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good bit that I go into in the book about how to build positive relationships. Like what exactly are the 4 characteristics of those and how do teachers do that effectively?
Yeah, I like that.
That's the formula.
Yeah.
And what's important is, I think sometimes we think of the beginning of the school year as that's when we build relationships and we do icebreakers and we build community and then we can get to the academics. That's not how a three-legged stool works.
No.
You've got to be doing all 3 all the time, all year long.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate that you talk about what to do the 2 weeks before school. And one of the things that we did at my school that was really impactful is we went and visited every single kid's home before school started, even our Porcupines. Mm-hmm. And what made that so valuable, and so little side note, what was interesting is that some people said, oh, I got so much empathy for where these kids live and all that stuff. And that is not the point that I was going for. The real point was we are leaving our ivory tower and going to where you are to show that you matter to us and that that we care and that we are part of your community also.
Yes.
And that idea of like the only learning that can happen is within the 4 walls of my classroom is just so crazy to me, but people still think that. And so leaving our school to go out to visit kids, they were like, what are you doing here? Like, well, I came out to tell you I'm excited for you to come back to school. And it's like, why are you excited for me to come back to school? And when a kid asks you that when you're on their doorstep, you better have an answer. Because if you don't, I honestly don't know why I'm excited for you to come back to school because you get under my nerves. Like, that's not the right answer.
No.
So,
well, another powerful thing about what you're talking about is, like, how many parents out there have had trauma in school?
Yeah.
And so that's why they're not coming to parent-teacher conferences.
Yeah.
That's why they're not coming to open house, because just walking through school doors elicits the fight, flight, or freeze response from them.
For sure.
So if we can meet parents where they're at,
yeah.
Boy, what a respectful and human thing that is to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge.
My kids actually go to the high school that I graduated from. And even though it's been remodeled since I've been in there, walking into the gym, which was not remodeled, it was remodeled, but it wasn't torn down. I had these feelings come back from 20 years ago when I graduated.
Takes you right back.
And everybody has that experience. And going into a school, as a parent could be a challenging thing. And then when they're anxious, that feeds into their kids as well. And they pass that along as well, even in the attitude. So there are so many reasons why these kids may be porcupines, but the reality is we do still need to hug them, and we do still need to do powerful things. So go back to the 3-legged stool.
Yep.
It's academic
engagement,
the other 2?
respectful, effective discipline practices, and positive teacher-student relationships.
Okay. So it was the discipline interactions. Talk to us about that, because we go back and forth between this. We're just all friends, and we want to make the kids like me, and people also miss out that kids do not like people that they don't respect. And part of having good discipline is having not expectations, I call them standards of behavior, and helping kids see that this is how we act when we're here. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so of course this is all bound up with relationship as well. One of the things that I learned as I was doing research for the book is that it appears as though there are 4 key characteristics of positive teacher-student relationships, and they directly connect to discipline. So the 4 characteristics are: teachers need to use strategies that are warm and demanding. supportive, and empowering. So that's the key. When you're looking at discipline strategies, is this a good one or not, is look through that lens.
Yeah.
So here are a few things we can do. One is, excuse me, at the beginning of the year, we can build rules collaboratively with our students. We can say to them, what are the things you want to get out of this year? What kind of community do we need to build so that we can reach for our goals this year?
Yeah.
And what are the rules we're going to use to take care of each other so we can work toward those important goals we have? When the rules of the room, and I know there are some schools that don't even want to use the word rules anymore.
Yeah.
I do not have a negative association with rules. Like if I'm going to play a board game, I need to know what the rules are.
Yeah.
Because it's the rules that allow you to have fun in the game.
Well, and on that point, Mike, one of the things that I often said to kids is, and still say, is this is a game. You need to know the rules of the game and how to be successful at it. There is nothing wrong with saying that school is a game, and let's play the right rules to be successful in this game. In fact, that's actually empowering, because when you look at it a little bit differently, that it's not somebody saying you have to act this way. It's saying, if you want to win, here's how you win, and these are the things you need to do.
And you use that word empowering.
Yeah.
That's one of those 4 characteristics. So when we build rules collaboratively with our students, we're being supportive because we are creating rules. So there are going to be guidelines, but it's also empowering because we're asking students to have a hand in shaping how that's going to look.
Yeah.
And then we need to be really good as adults at actually following through when the rules aren't followed.
Yep.
And something I think we need to be really honest about with our students is that we're all going to break rules.
Yeah.
We're all going to have a bad day. We're going to, like, one of the rules we always, every year when I did this in my own classroom, the rules would have some similar themes. There would always be something in there about taking care of our classroom, being responsible. And that was the one I struggled with because I would always end up with piles of teacher stuff.
Yeah.
On a shelf somewhere, and it would get messy. And so I would say to my students, like, this is one that I'm going to struggle with. I'm going to have to work harder at this than I am at some of our other rules. To have open, honest conversations that we're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And then to be able to follow through when that happens. So here's a really simple example. In one of my classrooms, I had this reading loft, which is this really cool standalone deck area where kids could go up and grab a beanbag chair and read a book or do some work. And one day I looked up, and Billy had taken all of the little bits of paper from the inside of his spiral binding on his spiral bound notebook and was making it snow off the side of the loft.
Yeah.
You could picture all the little bits of paper sprinkling down.
Yeah, I got a good story about that too, but go ahead.
So I looked up and I was like, Billy, that looks pretty cool, but come on down. You're all done with the loft for today and clean up the mess.
Yeah.
So there were 2 consequences there. He had to clean up the mess he made, and he lost the privilege of being in the loft for the rest of that day. Now, he got it back 3 days later when it was his turn in the rotation again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But those are really simple, logical consequences that help give the rules meaning and weight.
And on that story, the consequence didn't have to be he lost the privilege up there. But in your situation, that was the right thing to do. So I'm not questioning that.
Yeah.
But in other situations, you could be like, oh, that was actually pretty cool. I can totally see why you wanted to do that. And when you get down, you have to clean it up. But like, don't do that anymore because it's distracting or whatever. But the thing is, like, you don't have to stop every behavior that may look negative either. Mm-hmm. And that's also like picking your battles and saying, I'm going to have a boundary, but the boundary is not like, if you're dropping paper, you're not hurting anybody.
Right.
And it can be kind of cool. And if it's distracting others, that probably falls into another rule.
And it made a mess.
Yeah. And if it makes a mess, then we got to clean it up. And we're not going to leave it sitting there for 2 hours and then clean it up later. Like all these things you got to be thinking about, but you don't have to, like, as soon as a kid does one wrong thing, you don't have to come down on them. Like,
well, and there's a difference between consequences and punishments.
Yes.
So that was not a punishment.
Yep.
Punishments are designed to make kids hurt.
Yes.
With the idea being that if they hurt enough when we give them the punishment, then they won't misbehave again.
Yeah.
This was just simply a logical consequence.
Yeah.
You use a privilege, lose a privilege, you make a mess, you clean it up, and I delivered in a warm way.
Yeah.
So warm and demanding, like I'm following through on the rules.
Yeah.
We've got rules about the behavior on the loft, and you weren't following it, so you're all done. And I think those are some things that I think teachers really struggle with. Mm-hmm. In a lot of schools, teachers are very worried about letting consequences fall.
Yeah.
They often then outsource their power to the office.
Yes.
So one of the things I see all the time in schools.
Good. I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to bring it up next.
Especially in middle schools, but it happens at all levels, but especially in middle school. A kid, let's say a 7th grader, is getting dysregulated in math, getting upset, drops a swear. The teacher's like, "That's it, Jethro. I can't take it anymore. Go to the office."
Yeah.
So you 12-year-old self, 13-year-old self, you go down to the office, go to the assistant principal. The assistant principal says, Jethro, what are you doing in here? What happened? He said, I wasn't doing nothing. Mr. Anderson was picking on me. I was just sitting there. He just kicked me out of class. Well, now what's the assistant principal supposed to do with that?
Yep.
How is he ever going to get, or is she ever going to get to the bottom of what actually happened? And then the idea that that assistant principal is somehow going to help Jethro have a better time in math class next time, like the assistant principal can give it their best shot.
Yeah.
They can talk to the kid, try and help him figure out some strategies for how to stay in control next time. But there are a couple of problems with this. First of all, that problem-solving, and this is something I really go into in depth in the book.
Yeah.
Problem-solving conferences are gold.
Yes.
Teachers do not want to outsource those because that's where you build relationship.
Yeah. Yep.
And sometimes what happens is when the assistant principal or a counselor is actually good at having problem-solving conferences, you get kids who actually want to go to the office when they get dysregulated because that's the person who actually listens to their side of the story, tries to help them out. I was working with a middle school outside of Cincinnati once, and the middle school assistant principal said, I have the best relationship with the 10 toughest kids in this school.
Totally.
And he said, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm the wrong person to have the relationship with them.
Yeah. So a couple strategies that I've done with that. Number one is you're taking the assistant principal or the principal's time anyway.
Yep.
So have them come into your class and support the kids while you go
have the conference.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
That's one very simple one.
Yep.
That as a principal, I was like, yes, please, because then I get to just hang out and do cool stuff with kids, and you can deal with the kid that's causing you trouble in a way that's actually going to work. Because I told my teachers, if you send this kid to me, you are giving up all of your power.
Yeah, your solution might not actually work for the teacher.
Yeah, exactly. But I do have a relationship. So a lot of teachers complained, well, all you did was talk to him, and then you send him back to class. And it's like, well, yeah, that's all he needed.
Yep.
He just needed someone to talk to. And like, that's it.
But the teacher wanted the kid to get in trouble.
Yes,
They wanted the kid coming back sniffling, and penitent, when what they really needed was a chance to re-regulate.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that's something else I go into in the book, is there are times when kids should be removed from a classroom. If they are getting unsafe, or if they're disrupting learning for everybody.
Yeah.
We got to have a place where those kids can go and get their cool back.
Yeah.
But that should be the goal of that out of the classroom spot, is re-regulation, not problem solving.
Yeah, because there's a difference between re-regulation and problem solving.
Yes.
And if you're just focusing on the problem solving and you don't do the re-regulation first, the problem solving won't even work.
Right.
It's not even worth going down that path until they're re-regulated. And once they are, then you can solve the problem.
Absolutely.
And almost every time, if the teacher's doing the problem solving, then it's a million times better.
Because then they develop the real relationship with that tough kid.
Yep.
That's one of the ways we hug our porcupines, is by spending that time and energy trying to help that kid find a better way out of whatever's going on for them in that moment.
Yeah, because it's very real.
Yes.
Well, Mike, this has been awesome. So good to see you again. Tell us again the name of the book and where people can get it.
It's Hugging Porcupines. People can get it on the ISTE ASCD website. They can also get it on Amazon. Those are both good spots.
Excellent. Mike, thanks again for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jethro. This was awesome.